What's up, Totem Pole Nation? This is Lambo and Matt's World of Sports. I'm Matt. Lambo is out today, so we'll be giving my top 5 NFL teams post Week 8 solo. Sideline Sports Network, thank you as always for the platform. If you want to support the boys, we've got the link for the shop in the ticker below. You can hit that, get some cool merch. Like, comment, subscribe as always. And without further ado, let's get into the top 5. All right. Post Week 8 top 5, or as we have been calling it a little bit, our W lists. All right, this is going to make some people mad. That's fine. Number 5 team, call me biased if you want. Dallas Cowboys. As you can see, I didn't have them ranked. I haven't had them ranked, I think, since the first time we did this list. They were my number 2 team, and then they got embarrassed by the Niners and fell all the way off the list. Now, recent games have upped my liking for what I've been seeing, and it is justified in my mind putting them back into the top 5 teams in the NFL. As you can see in front of you, Dak is putting up a efficient season. He's not turning the ball over nearly as much as he was last season, and in comparison to other guys in the league, he's a step below when it comes to turnovers as well. Top 10 QBR, the number 2 completion percentage, and the yards aren't up there. That's fine. The offense has been finding their groove as of late, so I would give them time to make up some ground in the yardage area. Same thing for CeeDee Lamb. Tied for 21st in touchdowns with 3 is not overwhelming. The yak yardage isn't overwhelming. His receptions is not overwhelming. But we have seen in the past 2 games we've played since CD has been vocal about getting the ball more. His targets have gone up tremendously. The yardage per game, which I understand is only 2 games, has gone up a lot. So I like the way this offense is moving. They still have Tony Pollard in the backfield. And, Brandon Cooks is finding his spot on the team. Michael Gallup is being a little bit more disappointing, I won't lie. But the production that we're seeing out of Jake Ferguson as of late is encouraging. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. They're 3rd in yards allowed, 4th in pass yards allowed. The run defense is middle of the pack. Turnovers, they're tied for 5th. Points allowed, they're 4th. And they're tied for 4th in turnover differential. So with the way that the NFL landscape has been shaking up, I don't think it's unrealistic at all to see Dallas as a top 5 team. And I think me being a Dallas homer, a diehard fan, me putting them at 5 after the performance they just had is me being a little bit humble when it comes to it. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments. That's all good. Next up on my list here, the 49ers. They were the number 1 team on my list for 2 consecutive weeks, even after a loss. And then last week, they were the number 2 spot. And here I have them dropping to 4th. They're pretty lucky they're going into a bye this week. This offense has looked like shit since Brock's apparent concussion. And if that was the case, I think it was an egregious move of mismanagement when it comes to the health of your players by the Niners. Seeing a player get activated from concussion protocol on Saturday is never a good sign, in my opinion. And then seeing him hit the ground on Sunday and immediately going to hold his head wasn't the best sign, and they kept him out there all game. I thought they were supposed to have guys up in the booth that are looking for that stuff and to yank them out when it looks like it. That was supposed to happen last year. Obviously, the Tua situation happened, and now I don't want to say we're seeing it happen again, but it's kind of what it looks like so far with San Fran and Brock. So obviously, Brock's been putting up a top 10 season as a quarterback, and a lot of these states have deflated since that injury. Now, I'm not excusing poor play all the way around. It's obviously up to him if he's going to remain in the game. It's up to him to make the best impact. And in the past 2 games, he hasn't. And the defense has also fallen off a little bit as well from where I saw them earlier in the year to where they are now, which is why I have them dropping 2 spots to 4th. CMC, he's still the best running back in the game, in my opinion. He's just the duality of his game is unlike anybody else. Like, you can look at a guy like Kamara that's a little bit better at the running aspect than he is the receiving, but he's still a good receiver. And then you can go to the other side and you can look at Austin Eckler, who is better as a receiving back than a downhill running back. CMC is great and elite at both sides. He's number one in receiving yards among running backs, and he's number one in yards among running backs. And then looking at yards per carry, that's minimum of 40 carries. So, a few quarterbacks can't get in there. And then dudes who've only played 1 or 2 weeks aren't going to get in there either. He's tied for 11th in yards per carry, and that's mainly because the past 2-3 weeks, even spanning to the Cowboys game, he didn't perform super well on the ground. So I'd like to see an uptick from him, but that's not anything that you wouldn't expect from the best running back in the game. Defense, like I mentioned, falling off a little bit. They've dropped to 9th in yards allowed. Passing yards allowed, they're 19th, 5th in run defense. Turnovers, they're tied for 5th. Points allowed, they're 5th. Turnover differential, they're 8th. So still one of the best teams in the league, still a top 5 team, no doubt. Just the way that they've been playing recently, I wouldn't say that they're an unbeatable team, and that's why they're dropping that's why they're dropping 2 spots. Excuse me. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs also dropping 2 spots. I had them as my number 1 team last week. Pat looked awful. The offense couldn't do a damn thing. And, this is coming on the best defense that this team has had since I've been watching football and understanding what I'm watching, So obviously, Pat is still Pat. He's the best quarterback in the league. I don't think there's much of a debate there. But he's tied for 2nd in interceptions. Interceptions as a whole seem to be on an uptick this year. You're going to see me be a Cowboys fan again here. What the hell? Like, why are we not ragging on these guys for having 8 interceptions, 9 interceptions through the first 8 games of the year? I don't know. I mean, they're on pace to be throwing 16 plus. So I'm not saying he does that. I'm not saying Jalen does that or the other guys that are tied for 2nd and 1st in interceptions. I'm not predicting they do that, but I just want the same energy, that's all I'm saying. But outside of that, Pat has probably one of the worst wide receiver cores in the league, and he's still 2nd in QBR. And then Travis Kelce, obviously a beast. He's basically a wide receiver 1, and he has to be for this team in particular. You can see his stats there. He's a top 10 wide receiver as a tight end. And then their defense, the reason that they're still 3 after such an abysmal performance is because of the faith I have, 1, in Pat Mahomes being the number 1 QB in the league, obviously. But also coming off their defense is 4th in yards allowed, 2nd in passing yards allowed. They allow a lot on the ground. That's 19th in the league. Points allowed, though, is only 2nd. So they're a very much bend, don't break team. Turnovers, they're tied for 10th, and turnover differential, I'm pretty sure they're negative. So got to produce a little bit more turnovers, but at the same time, I'm not predicting that Pat continues to turn the ball over like this. And I do predict that the defense, continues to be as great as they have been. So I don't think this is for the Niners as well. I don't think either one of these guys are staying, below top 3. I think both of them are top 3 teams in the league. But as of right now, I've got the Chiefs at 3. Next up is the Ravens. Lamar's looking very 2019-ish, if you know what I mean. He's looking very MVP caliber this year. Very efficient with the ball. He's not turning it over. And you see his passing touchdowns tied for 16th. He's middle of the league when it comes to touchdowns in the air. He's got 5 more on the ground. That's 8th in the league amongst everybody that runs the ball. Among people that have 40 carries or more, he's 7th in yards per carry and 24th, as a running back. So, he's a top 10 running back as a quarterback. And then you look at his passing stats, the yards are down. Yeah. The passing offense has not gotten off to, the first half of the season start that we would expect with a new OC coming in and stressing more on the offense. But it looks to me, and this is not like a unique or hot take, I've seen and heard other people saying similar things as well. It used to be as soon as the pocket collapsed, Lamar was gone, and that was fine. That's how he got 1,000 yards rushing. That's how he's regarded as one of the best, if not the best. I'm personally a Michael Vick guy, but he's one of the best, if not the best rushing quarterbacks in NFL history. So, him only being middle of the pack when it comes to throwing or passing yards and passing touchdowns doesn't really bother me if he's only throwing 3 interceptions, has a top 10 passer rating, and adding the amount he's adding on the ground. And then you look at their defense. This is the Ravens defense that we're used to seeing. right? This is the lore that comes with the Ravens name. Second in yards allowed, third in passing yards allowed, 12th in rushing yards allowed. And with these other teams, I just want to point out, we've been seeing a run defense or pass defense be the main point of where they get their stops on defense. And they've been like 18th and 19th in the opposite, right? The Ravens are third in passing yards, still top half of the league when it comes to rushing yards. Points allowed, their first. Turnovers, they're tied for 14th. Turnover differential, they're tied for 13th. That doesn't have to do with them turning the ball over a lot. Obviously, you can see Lamar's interception stat. The defense doesn't produce a lot of turnovers, but like I said, they're not really bending that much, and they don't break. So if you can go, middle of the road when it comes to turnover differential, but you're still number one in points allowed, and number two in overall yards allowed, I think you roll with that. That's nothing to be mad at, and it's a big reason they've moved up 2 spots from 4 to 2 on my list. And the last team, this pains me to say, it's the Birds. All right? It's the Birds. Now you can see here they're a slightly smaller font on the screen. Maybe that was intentional, maybe it wasn't. Who knows? Yeah, this is annoying, and it's painful for me to put them 2 spots up from where I had them last week at the number 1. And I get it that they, played a very competitive game against a lesser opponent in Washington, but it's a division game. That's how it works. Outside of the Giants, I think every NFC East game is going to be competitive at least until the 4th quarter. So they can just beat every team. That's mainly what – I don't want to say mainly, but when I'm ranking these teams, it's like, do I think that the team above them would beat them majority of the games played? So obviously for top 5 teams, no, that's not going to be the case. But for the Eagles, they just have this ability to, like the Chiefs in years past, doesn't matter what the spread is. It doesn't matter if they're covering or not. They're going to play in ugly games, and they're going to win ugly games. And it sucks being a Cowboys fan, but I'm trying to be an unbiased reporter here first. I think that they're probably the best team in football right now. And you can maybe flip them with the Ravens if you wanted to, but they just have the ability to, regardless of how many picks Jalen throws, you can see he's tied for second in the league. Regardless if the wide receivers get going, which obviously AJ has been since that tiff on the sideline with Jalen multiple weeks ago, hasn't gone under 100 yards. And you can see he's 60 yards from being at 1,000 halfway through the year, which everybody in the media was hyping up Tyreek, deservedly so. But AJ's right there behind him. I mean, that's literally 2 big plays, and he's right there with them, which isn't, unthinkable when it comes to AJ Brown and then the offense that these guys put on the field. So I know that they don't win pretty, but I got to give them credit where it's due. And I'm putting the Eagles at 1 for this week at least. Hopefully that can drop in the future, but I'm not going to bet my money on it at all. And then you look at their defense too. It's not even just about what they're doing on offense, because obviously they turn the ball over and they don't really produce that many turnovers on defense. But, total yards allowed, they're 8th. Passing yards, 26th. The secondary is not very good, but they did just add Kevin Byard from Tennessee. They've got guys coming back from injury. Obviously, Slay is already back from injury. So I think the secondary is only going up from here, as painful as that is for me to say. Rushing yards, number 1. They allowed the least amount of rushing yards in the league. They're tied for 15th in turnovers and in turnover differential. And this is not exclusively on Jalen, but it's a lot his fault. They're 25th in turnover differential. So that's why I left it open for, changes if somebody wanted the Ravens at 1 and the Eagles at 2. I'm cool with that, just because of the offense not, I don't want to say they're inefficient, because obviously Jalen's top 10 in completion percentage. He's 6 in QBR. DeAndre Swift isn't listed here, but he's one of the best running backs in the league this year. And then the offense from the wide receivers. So I don't want to say that they're inefficient, but they turn the ball over at a very high rate, and they don't generate a lot of turnovers. So That it's a little bit tricky putting them at 1. I kind of got bit by this a couple weeks ago. I had the Dolphins at 2, and then they just got ran over because their defense couldn't stop water with a dam. So I am a little hesitant, but like I said, with the Eagles, this is a last year and this year thing. It doesn't seem like they can lose. Like they're in the ugliest games possible and they find ways to win. And that's what the Chiefs have been for the past few years. I think this is the first year in a while that the Chiefs have a winning record versus the spread. And I'll look it up right now, but I'm almost 100% that the Eagles have a negative record against the spread. So if you want to put the Ravens at 1, go for it. That is perfectly okay with me. But the Eagles just have that ability, man. Against the spread, they're 4-2-2. So 4 wins, 2 losses, 2 pushes. I was a little bit off. They're a great team, and we'll see on Sunday. You know who I'm picking. Dallas is getting the dub on Sunday, but we'll have to see. And the boy is returning. What's up, dude?
I had to sit there, and once I read that list, and I just got off work. Once I read that list, and I had to get out the coma of depression. Can you pull up the list again? Just for me to look at it, because there's some things that you're missing here, and I got to explain something to you. The list has to be fluid. The list is not fluid. I'm not gonna lie. This might be the worst list that you ever gave in week 8. Here's why. I want to pull it up, and there's just things I just got to tell you on this list. Now, once you pull it up, now let me see. I want to see everything. Oh, okay. So you got the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Eagles. Okay. I agree with the Eagles and the Ravens. You're missing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who won 5 straight games. Maybe
they're
I
six.
could put them.
They're 6.
Number 6. Number 6. A team.
Six.
Wait. A team that won 5 straight games is number 6. 5 straight.
I'm looking at overall here, dog.
No. Wait. Who's more consistent, the Cowboys or the Jacksonville Jaguars? Who's been consistent the last 4 weeks?
Well, you could say, I mean, honestly, we lost to the Niners. Yeah. So I'm not going to do that. But 3 of those weeks we were on a bye and we've got 2 dubs and then a dub before the Niners game, a good one against the Chargers. So I get it. I hear what you're saying, but I think it's very debatable. To say that this is my worst list is insane. I think it is easily flippable if you wanted to, just like I was giving the option for the Eagles and Ravens at 1 and 2.
No. That top list is fine. I'm talking about these 3 teams right here. The Cowboys.
The Niners are still top 5 teams?
No, not after 3 straight losses. I'm about to put them in the top 5. No. I'm replacing them with the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow and Joe Shiesty are back. Jamar Chase, I'm telling you, Joe Burrow is fully 100% healthy. They're on pace to reach the AFC Championship game. The defense is better than ever. Did you not see what they did to the 49ers?
I did see, but I'm going off of, first off, the baseline of each of these teams, right? So when we initially started this, the baseline of each team, and that's what I'm making my adjustments on. So obviously I had the Niners at the 1 spot for 2 consecutive weeks, one of them following a loss. I then dropped them to 2 because I still believed in the defense. And now they're at 4, which after 3 straight losses, you could argue I could have bumped them off the list, put Cowboys at 4, Jags at 5, or flip those if you want to. I decided to keep them. I decided to keep them on the list because I do believe that come December, come January, when you're worrying about who you're going to be playing in the playoffs, every single team in the NFC, including the Eagles, including the Cowboys, are still going to be very worried about matching up with the Niners. Brock is hurt right now. He should not have played this past week. But you can't just put 2 weeks of performances, or I guess you could say 3, The rainy game was, yes, the rainy game. I think any quarterback has a tough time. PJ Walker obviously is a bad guy to have a comparison against in that, but I'm not just erasing his perfect start in the league and what he can do as a quarterback because he had a bad game in the rain and then played with a concussion 2 games in a row. I'm not going to drop that. Like he played with a concussion 2 straight games. So they're lucky they're going to the bye week this week, but I don't think that it's enough to just erase everything we've seen from Brock, everything we've seen from this defense. Obviously, yeah, they had a bad game. That's fine. But the defense doesn't play like that week in, week out. And if Brock has a concussion, yeah, he's going to play like shit. They shouldn't have played him. But I think a healthy Brock and a healthy Niners defense, they could very well be back up into that top 3 spot. I think them being at 4, just looking at the grand scheme of the NFL, I do believe the Niners are better than the Jags. I think they're still better. I understand bad play, but you can also point to weeks of bad play for the Jags. Like it just, when I'm thinking about who's a better team and when I'm making this list, like who with a healthy Brock versus the Jags. So Brock is not concussed and they're playing the Jags. You're taking the Jags before the Niners?
I said the Jags will go at number 5 to replace your Dallas Cowboys. They're going at number 5.
But you had an issue with the Niners even being on the list. You just said you drop them.
Wait. I have other teams. It's not the only 2 teams. The other team that you're missing, besides I said Jacksonville, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Dolphins are not up here. What happened to the Dolphins? The Dolphins are not up here.
The defense is just way too. Every single team on this list has a great defense.
Oh wow!
Every single team on this list has
so
a great.
We're just gonna ignore Tua, Tyreek Hill.
No, were you not just watching the show, brother? I said it when I introduced the Eagles here at the number 1 spot. I said I had the Dolphins at 2 weeks ago, and then they got their doors blown off.
You see, you're talking passes. You said had. You had them at number 2, but you don't have them here.
Let me fucking go. I'm explaining that the my thought process as to why I'm nervous about the Eagles is because I had the Dolphins up at 2 and I got burned by it. Their defense got their doors blown off. And then they also got their doors blown off by the Bills, who have had a good offense that day, but a very struggling offense overall this year. And they just got annihilated on the defensive end. So, and that's with Josh having the most turnovers in the league. That's with controversy at the running back spot because they don't want to give James Cook the ball. I don't know why Latavius Murray is the focal point all of a sudden, but that's with a dysfunctional offense as of yet, and they got their doors blown off. So I think any of the offenses on this board are exposing the defense of the Dolphins, and I also think every single team on this board has a much better defense than the Dolphins. So I do understand that is the best offense in the league in Miami, but the deficiencies on defense and then what I think that these defenses could do, I couldn't justify them in the top 5. They can look, I can have them in Jacksonville at 6 and 7. That's cool. I don't have to go past 5, but I don't think I'm way off in my justification there. The worst list I've ever made. That's so wild. No shot. No way.
Yeah. The Cowboys because they beat the sorry Rams. Matthew Stafford. I picked them to beat the Rams.
I'm making you walk this back. The sorry Rams. This was your dark horse playoff
team.
Yes,
sorry.
This is a team that all year you've been saying we're making the playoffs. You've been with them all year until Dallas. Bro,
they still have a chance to make the playoffs.
Bro,
they still have a chance.
If we're annihilating a playoff team 2 games in a row, Chargers.
They weren't a playoff team last year. They did not make the playoffs last year. The Rams. They did not make the playoffs last year with Baker Mayfield.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you are considering them a playoff team this year, and that is who we just.
I said they will make the playoffs. That does not mean they'll be a playoff team until they make the playoffs.
Dog, you're saying the same thing. What do you mean?
No,
if they're
no playoff, no.
Bro, if they're going to make the playoffs, then you would consider them a playoff team. That is A-B logic right there. That is how that works.
What happens? I don't predict the future.
You did predict the future. You predicted
if they're
that
going
they
to
would make
if that happens.
Tyler, bro, you got to give me.
You lagging. I didn't hear what you said. You said something about the Rams.
I just said that if you did predict the future, but you did. You already did it. Like, that's what I'm saying. Now that the Cowboys beat them, you want to add this new level of, oh, well, I didn't say that they're going to. I don't predict the future. You did predict the future. You said they were going to the playoffs, which A-B logic would mean this is a playoff team in your eyes. Therefore, you're changing the goalpost just because the Dallas Cowboys beat them. If the Patriots beat them, you'd be like, we just beat a team that, in my mind, should be making the playoffs. That's fine. You have every right to say that, but don't change the goalpost just because Dallas is the team that beat them.
I'm speaking facts. Until the Rams make the playoffs,
you're changing the goalpost. You're moving the goalpost.
How am I changing the goalpost? It's a fact. They suck right now. And like I said, they have a chance to make it. I don't know if they're going to make it. I did say they were going to make it. You're right. But until it happens, until January happens, I will say the Rams will sneak into the wild card spot if that happens. As of right now, it is not looking good for them right now. It's just not. What they going to do without Matthew Stafford? With that thumb? What they going to do without him?
I'm not saying that in the future they're a good team. I'm trying to use the logic that you presented in the past to now put into this argument as to why your current logic doesn't make sense. That's all I'm trying to do here.
Well, I hope the same energy comes when y'all beat the Eagles. I just hope so. I want these Cowboy fans to get so hyped when you think you're going to beat the Eagles.
If we lose to the Eagles, then yeah, they won't be in the top 5. You'll see another team in there. But from what we've seen in the past 3 weeks of Dallas Cowboys, that's the Chargers game, going into the bye, getting everybody healthy that is available to be healthy, and then last week dominating. And looking at the stats on defense, looking at what the offense has been doing in the past 2 weeks, I think it's very fair to put them at the 5 spot. This is a team that going into after the first 2 weeks, this was a team that people were considering like a serious Super Bowl contention team. I said that it's a possibility. I'm saying now that I don't think that there's, without a doubt, 4 teams or 5 teams better than the Cowboys right now.
Okay. Well, there's 4 teams that are better than them right now on this list, obviously. But okay,
that's what I'm saying.
And of course, Jacksonville and Cincinnati that you're missing. But yeah, that makes it 6. Jacksonville and Bengals that you're missing. They're better team than the Dallas Cowboys.
Very debatable.
But okay,
very debatable.
You can continue. You can continue. This is it for the show. I just had to do this. I had to do this. I just had to come on there and I had to rile you up because, like I said, the passion for Dallas Cowboy fans. They go get there. They go get there. And then when it comes to Sunday, when you go against Jalen Hurts, when the defense needs a stop, when they need a stop, Jalen Hurts is going to come on top. Praise God. How about those Eagles? But adios, amigos.
All right. That's Lambo and his 2 cents on this. I hope you enjoyed that. That was pretty entertaining, I think. Yeah, if you agree with me, let us know in the comments. If you agree with Lambo, let us know. That was hilarious. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Sideline Sports Network, as always. Thanks for the platform. Yeah, I hope Dallas proves them wrong this weekend. That was hilarious. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Get some merch. The link is in the ticker. Be safe.